Welcome back to the Python Fundamental series. Today we will be talking about file handling. File handling is essential for reading from and writing to files, which is a very common task in programming. And for us, Python provides us with built-in functions and methods to work with files, making it easy to manage data stored in files. So let's start off with opening a file. To work with a file, you first need to open it using the open function. The open function returns a file object, which provides methods to interact with the file. Here is just the general syntax of opening a file. Essentially, you want to declare a variable using the open function with the file name and the specific mode that you want for the file. And here are the modes available using the open function. First, we have read, and that opens the file for reading. Then we have write. This opens a file for writing. We have append. This opens the file for appending. And we have binary, which open files for images and videos. And finally, we have read and write, which opens the files for both reading and writing. So let's go over an example of how you can open a file. Here we have the file hello.txt. This is just a plain text file with a few sentences. So as you can see here, we're going to open a file using open the text file and then using the read mode. And if we run it, we won't see anything because right now we've just only opened a file, but we haven't actually interacted with the file. So interacting with files, once a file is open in read mode, you can read its contents using various methods. The few methods we have here are the read function, read line, and read lines. The first read function reads the entire file as a string. The read line function reads one line at a time and stops at the end of line. And finally, read lines reads all lines into a list. So here we have an example of using the read function. Once we open the file, we can read the file into a variable and then print out the variable. Here you see we're going to print out content, which is the information that we read from the file. And you see here we printed out exactly the same as the file. So the read function reads the entirety of the file, but if we wanted to just read line by line, we will need to use the read line function. Here we're going to declare a new variable line with the read line file, and with this we're going to print out the line, and we should only see the first line of the file. So if we wanted to read the entirety of the file using the read line function, what we could do is use a while loop and keep reading each line until we hit the end of the file. So here we're going to use a while loop and run through the entire file until the very end. So this while loop essentially is the same as using the read function. The read lines function would read all the lines in a file into a list. So if we were to save a new variable and use a read lines function and print out the variable, we will see the file in the form of a list. And again, if you want to read the entire file using the read lines function, what we could do is use a for loop and run through the entire list. Moving on to writing to a file. To write to a file, you need to open it using the W or A mode. W stands for write and A stands for append. There are two main methods of writing into a file. The first one is write, which writes a string to a file, and the second one is write lines, which writes a list of strings to the file. We're going to showcase the write function. So as you can see here, this is our initial text file where we have 3 sentences. If we were to use a write function with the W mode, we'll actually overwrite what's in the existing file. So if we were to run this function, we'll expect everything in the original file to be overwritten, and then we'll be writing hello world, this is a new line. As you can see, nothing was printed out in the console, but if we look at the file, we will see that the file has been overwritten. If we were to use the appending mode, if we were to write a line, we would actually append the new line at the bottom of the file. So here you see this is the file that we have. If we use the append, we'll expect a new line to be appended to the bottom. And if we run the function, Again, nothing is printed out in the console, but if we look at the file, we can see that a new line has been appended. I wanted to quickly talk about closing a file. So it's good practice to always close a file after you're done with manipulating a file, and you do that by using the close method. This essentially releases any resources associated to the file. You essentially just need to have the close method for the file at the end when you're done with the file. There's another way to automatically close a file in case you forget to declare the close function. What you can use is the with statement. So the with statement is the preferred way to handle files because it automatically closes a file even if an error has occurred. So here's the basic syntax of the with statement. What you want to do is have with open file name mode as the file, and then you want to perform your operations inside the with block. So here's just a quick example of using the with statement. If you run the function, we would read the file, and then the file would automatically close when we finish the with block. And finally, I want to talk about handling exceptions. So file operations can raise exceptions. For example, say a file has not been found, and you handle them by using the try and except block. So here's an example of a try except block to handle the exceptions when opening a file that doesn't exist. So here we see within the with block, we're trying to open a file that doesn't exist, non-existent.txt. And what this does is with the except block, we'll go into the file not found error, and then we'll print out a statement saying the file is not found. And here you see a file is not found. And if we change the file to an existing file, hello.txt, we can expect the function to read fine. So the try except block is just a more graceful way to handle an error or an exception, because if we were to do it normally without using a try except, we'll be thrown an error and the program stops. So thank you for watching this video of the Python Fundamental series. This video we learned about file handling. Please like or subscribe if you appreciated this video. I hope you learned something today, and thanks for watching.